Big Sil's National Football Show. You know, Big Sil's is always looking to do some extra work here in the National Football League. In the Pro Football Hall of Fame want me to do some work with their website. And we'll give you more details in it here in a second. That's pretty cool, man. Being associated with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it's pretty cool that my uncle's in there too. Maybe that had a little bit to do with it as well. So, hey, as you're watching the radio world disintegrate around you, you're watching what we're doing and things like what we're doing in JAKIB Media and how it's exploding. It shows you that this is the cusp of what things are to come. Radio is not going anywhere because they don't have the talent there anymore. It's all here now. And I don't mean me. I'm talking about the industry because you don't have as many guardrails and you're afforded the opportunity to do a show. You can't do shows like these any longer because you're at the master's foot when it comes to the type of content you could go on and say and do. Okay? And most of the time, what you're looking for and what these guys are all looking for is clicks and views. Compelling content, good guest, good banter back and forth between us. So that's, to me, why it's growing. And I think, and by the way, more so than anything, I think it's because of all of you. Can you imagine this? Detroit is not even going to have AM radio in the cars any longer that they're making. The AM frequency is just going to dissipate and disappear over the next 3 or 4 years. It's crazy. The quality of content now is with streamers and with shows like this. And that's why most of these companies are trading at 13 cents. It's crazy. By the way, how fast it's changing. So, yeah, you know what, too? Yeah, I agree. It'd be really cool, though, if we could, like, somehow get the technology where we could just go back and forth like the radio, because I'd like to hear all your voices. I would. I don't know. Hey, I don't know. I don't know if Tone could handle stuff like that, because I don't know. Maybe it's best just this way right now. Okay, maybe it's best this way. Hey, by the way, Shady McCoy, you know what he said about Bijan Robinson? He's the best talent he's seen in the NFL draft in 4 years. I don't know. What does that tell you? It's the best talent he has seen at the running back position in 4 years. There's been some Najee Harris was a guy that was taken by the Steelers a couple years ago in the first round. He's better than Najee. That's pretty good. Najee's pretty good back in Pittsburgh. I like Najee Harris. And I think everyone learned their lesson by not taking, because, you know, remember that Clinton Richardson guy that came out of Alabama and he was a colossal failure? And they looked at that, and to me, that's why Derrick Henry went in the second round. But once Derrick Henry, my wife was always saying the whole time when we were watching the draft that night, she goes, Derrick Henry went in the second round. Boy, will teams kick themselves for that. Shit, if you had to redraft that guy all over again, would you not take him at 10? No. So Derrick Henry went in the second round. Trent Richardson. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve, for correcting me. So wait a minute now. If you could take Derrick Henry at 10, would you? Okay. If you could take Derrick Henry at 10. No, Najee Harris went in the last 4 years to Pittsburgh, dog. Would you take, would you top 3? Oh, okay. He went in the second round because people didn't want to take a running back. And I actually thought I heard someone on the radio say this. Derrick Henry really couldn't play anywhere in the NFL but in Tennessee. Wait, so you don't think Derrick Henry could play with Patrick Mahomes? Just the presence of that guy in the backfield would frighten the shit out of defensive coordinators. So wait a minute. Travis Kelce's loosening up the secondary and moving the linebackers away from the line. Do you understand? Why that's asinine? Let me show you why. When you play Tennessee, your linebackers are right off the heels of the D tackle. Why? Because they don't fear Ryan Tannehill. So what do? You move up closer to the line of scrimmage. You make it harder for Derrick Henry to get a running start and a head start. You put him in Kansas City. Watch this. You put him in Kansas City, and you got the linebackers on the line of scrimmage, and Travis Kelce's running around in the middle of the field with Patrick Mahomes. Don't you think those backers would eventually have to get more depth to cover the tight end? And if you give the backers more depth, what does that do for Derrick Henry? So wait, you're not going to have a crowded line of scrimmage with Henry? 15 carries, 150. Not 38 carries, 150. 15 carries, 150. He's got to average 10 yards a carry. Do you see the logic? Nobody fears Ryan Tannehill. Okay? No one fears, or Malik Willis. Nobody fears those guys. They're all on the line of scrimmage. They're waiting for him. I don't want that guy getting a head start on me. All of a sudden, can you imagine Derrick Henry in Philadelphia? So you're really going to put the linebackers on the line of scrimmage because you fear Derrick Henry. Well, what's Dallas Goedert and AJ and Devontae going to do to you? What's Jalen going to do to you? The entire football field would be wide open. So you're going to have to get depth. You got to drop your linebackers. Let me give you how you would have to play the Eagles if you had Henry in your backfield. They would change Henry's game. They wouldn't change the offense. And it would help him. It would give him more years on his career. Okay? What you would have to do, you would have to get cover 2 linebackers like Derek Brooks, who could get depth. You couldn't play TJ Edwards against Derrick Henry. You'd have to get linebackers like Ryan Shazier, like Brooks. Linebackers like that who could play in that cover 2. You'd have to have like Tampa 2 cover 2 linebackers to get it done. Shit, Nakobe could probably play in that. That's what you'd have to get to cover Derrick Henry. Okay? Eagles stopped them last year. Why? Awful running, awful offensive line. Third worst O-line. Quarterback was injured. No wide receiver threat, period. And he still gained 1,500 yards at 5 yards a carry. Yeah, they stopped him. There's no threat in Tennessee. So with the third worst offensive line in pro football, he still had the second most rushing yards and still had 5.5 yards a clip. He sucks. He don't fit. You imagine putting that guy in Kansas City or Buffalo? So you're trying to tell me you don't think Derrick Henry could help the Buffalo Bills run game? Really? Josh Allen doesn't get killed. He doesn't have to be overly aggressive. But you want to have Devin Singletary, whatever that guy's name was. I'll take a guy in the 7th round. He doesn't fit anywhere. Guy who had 1,500 yards. Is a Hall of Fame talent. Whew. Man. Crazy. Bijan is a running back talent that is going to make Fly, I'm going to make a comparison. And I don't know if you guys agree with me on it, but to me, when I look at Bijan Robinson, I see LaDainian Tomlinson. That's who I see. I see LT. Okay? He reminds me of LaDainian Tomlinson. Whatever that means to you. And like I said, don't forget, 5:30, we're going to have Merrill Reese, but tomorrow We're going to have on the guy who was the last guy that was the 10th pick in the draft and was a running back, Keith Byers. Okay? He's the last time you guys did it, and he's one of your legendary players, and he'll join us tomorrow at 4:30. Have people in chat call in $5 charge and put them on air and ask questions with a quick response that could bridge the gap. Hey, you know, we may do that after the draft. We may put some guys on. Dude, I'm not charging people for that shit. Okay, what do you think this is here, man? What do you think this is? iHeart Media? We don't cheeseball people out of stuff. We have fun here. We'll get there. You know what I'm saying? We'll get there, man. I'm not charging my customers like that and killing people like that. I don't believe in that. You guys are here for a reason because you want to be. I'm not taking advantage of that. Okay, that's not my nature. I don't take advantage of people. Other people take advantage of people. That's not me. If I'm going to take advantage of somebody, it's corporate. Hey, it ain't you guys. You know what I mean? I'm taking advantage of the man, not the people who support Big Sills. Makes no sense. Have a group of top running back makes me feel like Jalen won't trust his eyes. And Jason, his decision-making is so good. Okay? His decision-making is so good. It's what he's being paid on. He's the offensive coordinator out there. Brian Johnson is just going to make sure that they're all on the same page and everyone is understanding what Jalen is seeing. Do you know what those meetings must be like when you get into a meeting with Jalen Hurts and you're watching game film from the previous Sunday? You, instead of doing this, you know, why didn't you go here? Why didn't you go here? How I would talk to Hurts would be more this. What did you see here? So that I can get on the same page with you. I want to know what you're reading. And I want to play a game back and forth. And I want to know, like, in our preparation for the upcoming opponent, I'll get to that in a minute. But as we review the tape from Sunday, I would want to know what you see so that I could sit there and understand what you're seeing. And it helps me in personnel. It helps me in situational play calling. It helps me where you are into plus 20, minus 20, plus 35, third down and 2, third down and 1. Are you on a brown set? Are you on a weak side set? Are you into the perimeter? Are you in the red zone? Are you with the goalpost to my back? I want to know everything that you're doing and what you're seeing. If I'm Brian Johnson, so I'm on the same page. And because of that relationship that they have, Brian already probably has a pretty good handle on that. He probably already knows what he is going to do on 1st and 10. Okay? He already knows because they probably scripted out a couple plays in what Jalen's going to see. And again, this is going to be like war games. You know, one of the best things I ever saw in my life was, and we had Jimmy Johnson on the other day. You know what Jimmy and Brady would do? Seriously, man, it was like sink my battleship kind of stuff. On a Wednesday, Bill Belichick would sit there and go like this to Brady. This is what the Jets like to do. They like to bring pressure plus 40. And what they like to do is they'll disguise it too. They'll run that safety back, and then they'll turn that safety right around at the snap of the count, and they'll try to give you false reads out there. See, the key that you have is false reads in the secondary. The Eagle offense eliminates all that. There's no progression reading in that offense. It's Jalen. Jalen Hurts is dictating to the defense. This is what makes this offense unique. Follow me here. Jalen Hurts doesn't sit back here. He does at certain times. At situational play calling when it's called for. When Jalen will go to a traditional drop back. But how many times have you seen him do this? RPO it and then get back. You know what that does? Linebackers have to drop and get depth. And that's why Goddard's wide open. Goddard's the key to this. That's why that offense tailed a little when Goddard went down. Not only because of his blocking, but man, when you got a guy on the seam like that and you can't cover him, Dallas Goedert is the biggest weapon in the passing game compared to anybody you have. And you see it every single game that he's a healthy body. They can't cover him. He's got a nose for the end zone. And then when you add a back like the Daniel Tomlinson, you put it back like a Daniel Tomlinson, who, by the way, would be your fourth best pass catcher. Do you understand? You wouldn't have to go to different personnel. Those four guys would be on the field. Look at what your skilled guys would be. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Bijan Robinson. Not a way to cover it. Unless Jalen shits the bed or gets hurt or something, there's injuries in the O-line, there's not a chance you stop that. You'll win the Super Bowl. You'll win the Super Bowl. Putting some stiff – let me back up because I don't want to disrespect Gainwell and Boston. Those guys aren't helping you. They're enabling you to have a really good offense. Bijan makes you special. Why wouldn't you want to be special? Okay? You got an opportunity to make your offense special, and you don't want to because what's the common theme in Philly? Because that's not what they do. That's stupid, and it sucks in theory. And it sucks as a mentality that you don't want to go for it. Go for it, dude. You went for it with Jalen's contract. Go for it with this dude. Go for it. The NFC's there for the taking. You want to take some stiff in the 5th round as a running back. It's asinine sense. Or you want to take some dumbass edge rusher you're going to overdraft like you did a year ago. Bro, don't overdraft. Bijan Robinson's the best football player in this draft. Don't overthink the goddamn thing. You know, there's a special way to make Italian sauce. You know, there's a special way to do it. You know, the old Italians know how to do it. Don't add anything else to it, man. Okay, or I'll throw the meatballs at you. Don't do anything stupid. Don't overthink it. Miles Murphy. How dumb can you be? Okay? How dumb can you be? There's not a general manager in the NFL that's going to be talking about the draft that doesn't think that kid Robinson isn't the first or second best player in the draft. But you want to take the 5th best edge rusher or the 4th best corner or the 3rd best offensive lineman instead of being special like Jimmy said yesterday. Here would be my thinking. Okay, here'd be my thinking. I think that guy's an all-pro. With that old line, you don't have elite. I can't wait to talk to Keith Byers tomorrow. I can't wait to talk to Keith Byers. Somebody who played the position and was an elite back. I cannot wait. You got a chance to get a guy back there like LaDainian Tomlinson to help your football team completely just be special. And you're talking about drafting some of these other stiffs. Now, look, moving down, Tennessee, like I said, or Houston bugs me. Houston bugs me because they could take him. Played in Austin, played at the University of Texas. He's a local kid. I think the Cowboys want him too. Okay? Would it shock me if the Atlanta Falcons drafted him? No. You got a chance, like Jimmy said, to be special. But you want to have a mediocre group of running backs. Call it a day. You better hope that one of your wideouts don't get hurt. So let me put this out there too to you. What if Devontae gets hurt? Then you're down to AJ and Goddard. You ain't got that wideout. Who, Quez? Who takes the heat off AJ? LaDainian Tomlinson / Bijan Robinson and Goddard could take the heat off it. Do you understand with that one move, you covered 2 deficiencies on your team, a better back and deeper pass catchers. It covers your 3rd dude. It covers your 3rd dude. And if a guy gets injured, it creates depth because he can catch the ball. Am I right? There's nothing that I'm saying here you can come back at. You don't have a better player than this in your backfield currently. And this notion that you throw a ton of screen passes to your backs, Really? Let me take a look at that. So you really think the Eagles do a good job throwing screen passes to their backs? Right? You think so? Let me take a look at that. Philadelphia Eagles 2022 pass catchers, receiving yards. Receiving. Gainwell had 23 catches. Sanders had 20. And Scott had 5. You think that's a ton? How many yards did he have? He had 169 yards on 23 catches. Their screen game sucks. The Eagles don't have a screen game. Who told you that? 23 catches for 169 yards is your top guy. They don't throw screenplays to their backs. Can you imagine adding a screen game and a player that could catch the ball actually and be a productive player? Since when does anybody actually think that the Eagles throw to their backs? It's asinine again by the radio guys who bring that up. They don't have a screen game. That's made up shit. Gainwell produced 23 catches for 120 yards. It's a dude. He produced. That's not production, my friend. That's necessity yards. That's kind of just, how about adding somebody to the offense that could give you legitimate explosion? Those aren't explosion plays. Your explosion plays come from your wideouts, your tight end, and your quarterback, not from your screen. You have zero explosion plays from your screen game. Zero. You know why? Because you don't have an explosive or talented back. You do it by the committee of running backs. You've got a premium pick. You should make it a premium player. Okay? Eagles screen game. Next time you hear somebody say that, you should go, really? You might want to look at those numbers and how non-productive they were at that. It's not even part of the offense. So if you implement a guy who can catch you 60 passes, like a Bijan Robinson, and put 60 catches in the air for you, and I would be great with this with him. Say he had 800 yards, 900 yards rushing, 5.5 yards a carry, and he had 50 to 60 catches at 500 yards. That's a grand slam. That's a grand slam. It's a grand slam. And you covered the 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns with one guy, and you improved your passing game for Jalen. Doesn't getting a screen game going improve the... Hey, you want to know why Jalen Hurts, and I've always been this, besides the injury factor, you don't do enough plays that are high percentage passing plays to get him 4,000 yards. How many times you see Brady throwing to Leonard Fournette or Sony Michel? How many times in his career do you think he's made a living at that? Did Tom Brady not make a living out of throwing to his backs? He made a living out of that. The slot position and throwing to his backs. He made a living doing it. Jalen has none of that in his arsenal right now. It's limited touches. He's doing everything with the wideouts and tight end. We've got to get the ball third receiver more. Jalen did get Sanders Hey, Tone, can you put that super chat up again? I want to make sure I get it there. We've got to get the ball to third wide receiver more. Jalen did get Sanders killed on screens in the Super Bowl too, and Quez Watkins needs to return kickoffs. Okay, I'm good with that. Remember something though, yeah. One of the things that will always be remembered here. Thank you, I appreciate that, Tone. Randy Moss, as talented as he was, that was probably the greatest wide receiver that he's ever played with. I think Mike Evans is a pretty good player as well. But, they won a lot of ball games in the regular season. They were undefeated. They got beat by the Giants in the Super Bowl. They won Super Bowls throwing to backs and the tight ends. Okay? That's how they won Super Bowls, backs and tight ends. They've played with people like Troy Brown, Deion Branch, Amendola, Edelman. Those were the guys. They were slot wideouts. They weren't big-time deep threats. Brady never played with one deep threat except for Randy. And I would say Mike Evans. I think Godwell too. For the Bucks, when healthy, is more of a deep threat too. But Brady never played with deep threats. Ocho Cinco couldn't make the freaking team. I mean, yeah, Edelman and Amendola. You know what they were? I think those guys were undrafted. Yeah, you know what? I mean, Edelman and Amendola, I think one of them was a quarterback in college. One of them was a quarterback. Nobody thought highly of those guys. Wes Welker too, man. Wes Welker was traded twice before he got to New England. He was a special teams guy in San Diego. He was a special teams guy in Miami. And when he got to New England, they put him in the slot. Wes Welker went into the slot. Brady made him there. Throw into the backside of the backfield, throw into the slot, go into the tight end. That was their offense. The Eagles throw nothing to their backs. It's not even a part of the game plan. I think it's probably harder to be involved in the passing play and the passing game when you run RPOs. Probably one of the reasons why it's not implemented more, because you have to be more of a straight seven-stepper to have a screen game. And I don't know how you run a screen game out of the RPO. You'd have to become a little bit more creative in that as well, in creating that kind of offense, because when you're running that RPO, is he going to be out in the perimeter on the RPO? And again, that means that Jalen will have to have another avenue to have to read. Okay, I'm watching the safety, I'm watching the linebacker, and he needs focus in front of him. Knowing that he's over there would probably be something that you could put in the back of your noggin there. But again, he's got a lot to read in split seconds. Boom. Watch this. You know what's even crazier about how Jalen plays? Brady's got this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I saw Bill Walsh do this. 1, 2, 3. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Bill, you had to be in rhythm. And he wanted Montana in rhythm. Boom. 1, 2. If you have to throw to a point, a spot, you have to get that ball out in 3 seconds. Jalen has to do this. 1, 2, 3. That's too late. You're hit. Jalen's got to make that decision here. Jalen doesn't have 3 seconds. He doesn't use that. Jalen's going down the line of scrimmage, half a second. Then he goes, dude, his thinking process is quicker than Montana's and Brady's because the play is quicker. RPO, man, that's a hard – you know why there hasn't been really great passers in the RPO? Because the play's too quick. When you're a drop back guy, 1, 2, 3, boom. When you're an RPO guy, you're down the line of scrimmage reading the safety or linebacker. You got to decide whether or not to give it to him or keep it, or block and release to the tight end, or drop back and then throw it to a point. Jalen takes all the progression. It's actually a great way for a young quarterback to learn progression reading in a slower pace. Because the plays that he runs, if you think about it, they're quicker decision making. So when he gets in the passing game, this is why I think, hey, Yale, everyone, this is why I think he's improving in the passing game. You know why? I think the passing plays, when he goes into a 7-step, in my opinion, I think they must feel like they're in slow motion compared to the RPO reads. RPO reads are like this. When you're in a 7-step, you get 1, 2, 3, throw to a point. Peyton Manning is not even remotely close to Aaron Rodgers. Okay, when it comes to talent. Peyton Manning threw to spots on the field because he didn't have the strongest arm. One of the criticisms of Peyton Manning going into the draft was the fact that Peyton Manning didn't have a strong arm. So why did he study so much? The reason he practiced so much with Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne was because he had to be precise because he didn't have the talent in the arm that, say, that a Justin Herbert or a Aaron Rodgers has, or even to that matter, Brett Favre. He had to throw to spots. Jalen completely takes the reading out in a 7-step drop because they don't do 7-step. They do some of it. That's not a major part of their, you know, Michael Vick never threw screens, and Lamar doesn't throw screens that much either. Well, that's probably why their passing games always struggled. Don't you think, Weapon? Well, maybe that's why their passing game struggled. Maybe that's why they struggled in the passing games. Okay? Right? They weren't, you know, when you hear people say that the Eagles want to spread you out and be, and they want to beat you with the pass, I completely disagree with that. The Philadelphia Eagles are not built to beat you in the passing game. It's become a luxury to Hurts's progression and what he's done with his system. It's becoming a luxury, which is making it a difficult weapon to defend. That football team for the last 2 years has not been built on passing. It's been built on the dominance at the point of attack and running. RPO, run, pass option, not pass run option. Run, pass option. And in the process, Hurts's development, because they've taken the progression reading out of it, there's no progression reading in RPO. Jalen he already knows where to go with the ball. If he sees the linebacker or strong or free safety and he's reading those guys, he knows AJ's one-on-one over there to the left now. Or he knows Goddard is wide open down the seam. Why not add a passing component in the screen game? If you made this thing even more difficult to defend, isn't that the key? And it's less hits on your quarterback, which means what? Hurts will never see the end of his contract he has now. You know why? Because within 3 years, they'd have ripped it up and put a new one on the table. That's why. If Hurts continues to do, and you keep putting great, and by the way, Bijan Robinson would cost you a fraction of what it would cost to get Henry. And I think he's got a bigger skill set. He can catch the ball and he can run with it. I think there's a bigger skill set there. Would love to see Henry in Buffalo. Whew, good night. That would be hard to defend. So you got a 6'6" Josh Allen who played every game last year, can run you over. Then you got the quarterback who can run you over. And you got Stephon Diggs. That could be scary. Buffalo would be scary. How about if they get D-Hop? You see what DeAndre Hopkins said? Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll restructure my contract. You want to give me more money up front? Let's restructure it. I'll take lower base. Hey, I'm saying this. I think DeAndre Hopkins is traded. I think he's traded draft night. He's too good, dude. He's too good. And he's still got shit in the tank. I think he's still good. I mean, this year's draft in wideouts are not hot. I don't think it's a real deep draft. I think I get a good dude in the second or third round in this thing. And not overpay. What did I tell you? 65% of the all pros and pro bowlers that have been drafted in the last 15 years have been second rounders and not been in the first, or have not been first rounders. Why would I go against those numbers or go against those trends? You better chance, get this. You got a better chance today of drafting an impact player at wide receiver outside the first round than you do in the first round. So you're going to go against that, but draft a guy who you're not sure about. If I have any question marks about a wide receiver in this draft, I'll wait for the second and third. I have a better chance of landing on an impact guy and a guy who could be productive than I do with a flop in the first round. See, go by trends and how the draft, because it tells you what the college game is doing. This game, this year, it's not deep. At what positions? Linebacker, there's not a really gigantic pool of DTs. Safety position sucks. Wide receiver pool is a bunch of really good players. There's no wild dude in it. There's not a wow guy in the draft. Look at all the premium wideouts that are in the NFL today. Almost 70% of those guys were second rounders. DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams. None of those, Cooper Kupp, none of those guys were first rounders. And those are the elite guys in the game. But you think you're going to like knock the cover off the roof of the draft by drafting a guy at 12 from Ohio State. Okay, may turn out to be Michael Thomas. He may be Michael Thomas. But do you think maybe you overdraft him too? There's a better chance of you overdrafting these wide receivers in this draft than any position in the draft. I think the wideouts will be overdrafted. I think they're decent. I think they're good. I think there's a bunch of really good football players out there right now that, dude, like, seriously, you really think these guys, like the guy Zay Flowers from Boston College, you think he's better than Adam Thielen? I don't know. Or you think he's just as good? I don't know. Adam Thielen's a pretty good ball player. I got to take a gamble that Zay's good and not Jalen Reagor. It's a crapshoot. These draft picks are all lottery picks. It's like filling out your lottery cards and playing Powerball. You have no idea. So that's why you're trying to eliminate failure. How do you do that? Stay in great conferences. Go to programs that produce strong positions. Like I told you about Ohio State. Okay? Good in the trenches, like the Eagles like. That's why Paris Johnson makes more. You know why Paris Johnson makes more sense than Skrzynovsky from Northwestern? Because Ohio State builds their program like the Eagles do in the trenches. Ohio State has had more success O-line, D-line than any other positions that they have drafted over the last 30 years. So they kind of have the philosophy of the Eagles. So when you have a good offensive tackle at Ohio State, the chances of him succeeding in the NFL are pretty high. Why? Good coaching. They believe in the O-line coach. They believe in recruiting like the Southeastern Conference. And as I said in the first hour also, they recruit and they sign players like they're Alabama, LSU, and Georgia. They don't act like Iowa. They don't act like Northwestern. Look at Northwestern. You're trying to tell me you think this guy Skrzynovsky is a really great football player and he's on a 1-11 team and he played with no good talent around him, and you're looking basically at him and you got to evaluate him like Joe Thomas, and you think he's a Joe Thomas player and you're going to take him at 9. He's a top 9 player. Boy, when I turn the film on with him, I think he's good. When I see that guy, I do not see Orlando Pace or the kid that's playing with the Chargers. I do not see that. I don't see Trey Thomas. I don't see Landon Dickerson when I put the game film on and watch him. Landon Dickerson? Landon Dickerson was better in college than this guy. And he went in the second round. Okay? Hey, Landon Dickerson, you put his college game film on, and then you put Skornowski's game film on, and you tell me who you think. I did that last night. And Landon Dickerson went in the second round. That'll show you again how this draft is not high. You're telling me you think that guy's the 9th pick or the 5th pick or the 6th pick. Put Landon Dickerson's college film on before he got drafted. And then watch that film and then watch that guy play. You'll go like this. He's not better than him. And he's not a better prospect. Yet Landon went in a second. This guy's going to go in the top 10. That's overdrafting to me. Because when I watch him, I do this. I don't see it. Okay? I don't see it. They're just saying, okay? Landon went in the second because of injuries. I'm talking about his game film. Hey, well, I'll give you one better, Ray. Guy by the name of Anthony Munoz played in one game his final season at USC. Played in the Rose Bowl. Missed all 11 games. He was the 3rd pick in the draft. Injuries? He was always hurt at Southern Cal. But the Bengals took him, I think, with the 3rd pick. Didn't play his entire senior year. Played one game. The Rose Bowl. Look it up. You imagine being the 3rd pick at offensive tackle and you didn't play one down your final year at Southern Cal except for the Rose Bowl. He gets in the Rose Bowl. He destroys the guy he's playing on. They took him 3rd. Talent's talent. Okay? Hour number 3.